to provide solutions. Like I said in my earlier comment, the measure of performance that is most important is the security and safety of each and every person living in Nigeria today. And so, I mean, that's just what it is. So what should they do? That's your question. Well, I think we need to put on our thinking caps now. We need to use our cerebral tools, because as managers of the security program of the country, as the leaders of the security program of the country, the work they are most suited for, or the work that's most important for them to do, is use of intellection. That's use of knowledge to solve problems. I don't expect General Rabo, even though he's a great military hero, to carry a rifle and go to the war front. But his job is to put the program together, put the strategy together, understand the problem, in a very organic manner, and then provide solutions which will be executed through his men and through the citizenry. Now, what do I mean by this? First of all, we need to do a lot of structured analytical thinking, because we have tended in the past to rely on a lot of intuitive thinking tools, which are not reliable, which worked for my grandfather in those days. My grandfather was a great hunter, but he didn't face any threats like this. He didn't face insurgency. He didn't face banditry. He didn't face people being seized from their cars along Benin or a road or Benin Auchi Road. I mean, so these are the extant threats. These are the existing threats today. And how do we tackle those threats? That is where we need these brilliant military leaders. And I'm very grateful to Mr. President for putting somebody like Mr. Irabo, General Irabo at as a service chief, because that is a proven intellectual. He has the tools, like General Temlong said, he knows his onions. That is somebody who aside from being a fighting man, he has, knowledge tools to use. General Gambo is also another brilliant, very brilliant officer. And I'm sure the others too, they are also very brilliant people. I know all of them. And so what I'm saying is we need to, they need to understand that the biggest thing that we expect from them is muscular thinking, robust thinking. And what do they need? They need to use structured analytical tools, because these are very complex problems. They are messy problems. I think somebody used the word messy. I think it's General Temlong just now. They are messy problems. They have a lot of stakeholders. They have a lot of people they need to serve. They need to please. Mr. Kabir was talking about expectations. We are talking about consumers. When we use intelligence analysis, lexicon. So they have a lot on their plate, and I think the first thing to do is to kind of reach out to their former teachers like General Temlong, reach out to consultants who can work with them in building powerful models, because we need to be able to build predictive models for where the threat is going, and so that we can intercept it before it gets there. This is a job they must do. We cannot blame the politicians. We cannot blame the governments. This is a military job. They are military. Do just that, please. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Onaihomo, thank you very much. We saw General Temlong a while ago, but I want to come back to Dr. Kabir here, and then from there we migrate back again to our Just Network Center. Let's back up a bit, gentlemen, and Kyrian. For those who have been around long enough, there is no parallel or precedent of so many important pressure groups and significant quarters calling for the resignation or sack of service chiefs. Not during the military regimes, not even during the Second Republic or Third Republic was Diarchy, and the Fourth Republic, not even the First Republic. So that unusualness is something that perhaps we need some understanding to. The National Assembly on several occasions called on the Commander-in-Chief to say, fire these men. Some governors and other pressure groups also said, look, fire these persons. And if you recall, at his inauguration in 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari did say that security was one of the pillars of his focus. And he demonstrated that by some weeks into his administration, sacking the previous service chiefs and then appointing those who were removed yesterday to be the arrowhead, all of that. Then, a couple of years down the road, we started hearing all of these calls. What happened? What did we go through that we now started hearing these calls for the service chiefs to step aside? Because people just said, on one hand, they had run out of ideas.
Brilliant question, Kingsley. One is perception. Two, our history. Because of our history and over the last few years, we've had a longer period of military rule than actually civilian administration. And so the average Nigerian perceives the military to play a bigger role than it should actually play in a democratic system of government. Now, that unfortunately too has not been helped by even some of the civilian presidents that we've had, for the simple reason that they also have a military background. An example is President Obasanjo, and then even the incumbent president. And so they have relied, I would say, almost too overwhelmingly on the military for implementing internal security matters. And so the average Nigerian sees the military as the alpha and omega in implementing security issues. Now, there are 27 ministries, departments, and agencies, as well as the military units in the security subsector. And the military represents only 4, or if you want to extend it, 5, if you include the DIA. But we're talking of service chiefs, so let's restrict it to 4. So even, I mean, in primary school, if you take 3 or 4 out of 27, you still have a larger proportion of 23. So it beats me really that the average Nigerian still sees the military as the alpha and omega. And with all due respect to the military, it's in national security matters everywhere in the world, especially in advanced democracies. The military actually plays a back role, to the extent that if you look at, for instance, the biggest democracy in the world, which is the US, or the most advanced anyway, not the biggest in the world, the US, it's very rarely that they appoint in certain key positions, including the National Security Advisor, Homeland Security departments, name them, military persons to head those units. They are usually civilians with industrial security or public security knowledge. But in Nigeria, the reverse is the case. The National Security Advisor is usually headed by the military, and name them almost everywhere. Now, that's not in any way saying that the military does not have a role in national. It does have a role. But my point is that that role should not supersede the role of the other civilian security departments. And so that answers your question. Because of this perception, a lot of Nigerians wanted more from the military. And unfortunately, the military leadership did not help matters, because they took on responsibilities that perhaps at some point they should have looked at the political leaders to tell them that, look, this is not our rule, as it were. Why don't you do X, Y, Z? It will help us. Because remember, politics is about balancing interest. And in these two interests, there are two, I think, key things that we can always think about. The centrifugal forces that are tearing us apart, and then the centripetal forces that are bringing us together. It's not the responsibility of the military to balance these two. The insurgency that is ongoing, to an extent, is a centrifugal force. The secession threat in the northeast is a centrifugal force. Is it the role of the military to balance that? No. Politicians or political leaders, and to an extent even traditional leaders, have responsibility to balance this disparate nature of our society, and then law enforcement and security agencies will now come and find a balance. So in direct response to your question, one is a responsibility of perception, and then secondly, unfortunately, our historical antecedents.
Well, that's well explained, if you ask me, because as Kingsley said, when in 2015 the new services that left yesterday were being inaugurated, right, it was the belief of everybody that things are going to change. But I give it to them that they did well too in their own right. We recall that then over 10 council areas in the northeast, in Maiduguri, were captured, were being run by Boko Haram. They were able to, push them back and all of that. And then before we started hearing, before the emergence of the issue of banditry and of course the spike in kidnapping and what have you. All right, I think the audio signal is clear now. We can go back to Jos. General John Temlong, I asked a question shortly before we had that audio issue, and that borders on what should be the next line of action by these new service chiefs with respect to the fact that they have been in the field, they had their experience, they worked with the outgoing or perhaps the resigned service chiefs. They know the terrain, they understand the language in all aspects of insecurity that we're talking about. Now, professionally speaking, how would they start? Because the starting point, because Nigerians are expecting changes, and if these changes do not come as quickly as they want it, there could be more calls as we had in the past. We just listened to Dr. Adamu talking about that perception, Nigeria's perception about achievements, Nigerians' perception about giving responsibility, and the result that they expect as soon as possible. So, what should be the next step by these chiefs to start a new wave of action that will, of course, fight the numerous insecurity problems that we have in the country?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. I think we need to get it right that the president listens to Nigerians. It is his responsibility to provide security as the chief security officer of the country. And so his own perception cannot be different from the perception of Nigerians. It should be the same because he listens to Nigerians. He knows where it pinches them. In fact, it is because of that he was elected. So the question of compartmentalizing the perception does not arise because it is the president who is supposed to provide security. And security itself is tangible. It can be felt. It's not something in the abstract. If you leave Benin going to Lagos, if you are not stopped on the way, you know that you are secured. Or there is no fear of you being kidnapped on the way, or you are sleeping in your house. So security is something that is felt. It's not an abstract. Secondly, to know that what they are supposed to do is to look at the strategy itself now. And I'm sure from the strategic guidance that the commander-in-chief would have given them, they will now go and do an analysis of that guidance and come up with a strategy. And the strategy that I think they might come out should be a two-pronged strategy. A strategy of using both the hard power component and the soft power component. The soft power component should be executed by the state governments and the citizens, and as it were, getting the citizens organized, rebuilding the communities, building their capacity in security awareness and security training, and sort of providing for themselves some soft form of defense so that they will be able to be alive before the military comes, security forces come in. And then the hard power component is where they need to neutralize based on the intelligence that is given to them, because it's an intelligence-driven operation that we are going to be fighting. And so you need to up your intelligence using both human and electronic or technological intelligence. So they need to up that game. And so take the role to the various strategic enclaves. We look at the center of gravity of the terrorists and the insurgents. What are their centers of gravity? Hit at those centers of gravities. And in this case, part of the center of gravity of terrorists or insurgents is the population itself. because the population acts as the oxygen of the insurgent or terrorists. If the population do not cooperate with them, if they are not able to control the population, if they are not able to intimidate the population, if they are not able to influence the population, they will be left bare. And that, to me, is the oxygen of the insurgents. And then you now go to where their command and control nodes are, and make sure that you get them off, knock off their hardwares, and then you prevent them from getting people recruited, because it is from the population that they are recruiting their soldiers. And so once you're able to provide that, and that will be part of the soft power component, that will be the strategy of the states and the people and the traditional institutions and the local governments to prevent and stop them from having people being recruited by them, and to cut off their sources of influence where they influence the citizens, cut off their sources of supply, and then you hit them properly and give them no respite. Definitely is going to be a Herculean task, because you need to get back the people involved. Now, you need the Director of State Security Services have to come in very seriously here. Other intelligence agencies will have to come in seriously here. The police will have to up their game, because you have to rebuild the police force as we are. I think there is something being done about organizing the police, courtesy the NSAS. They have to build back the confidence in the population, so that they'll be able to, when they see things and report to them, those who are the informants are sure that they will not be exposed. The criminal justice system too has to be done, so it has to be a whole gamut of things. We have had people who have been arrested for kidnapping, and after a day or two, you see them on the streets again, that they have been given bail. So the criminal justice system too has to be rejigged, because if these people who are supposed to be kept behind bars come out again, they are more vicious. And you see, it becomes an unending circle of ding-dong, because you arrest them today, tomorrow they are out, you arrest them today, tomorrow they are out. And they even know those who have reported them, so the next thing is that they target those who seem to be the informants of the security agencies. So I think it's a comprehensive thing that they have to do. They have to rejig the strategy. The strategy has to be two-pronged. You have to look at what the states, what are the soft power components that will be done by the state administration, local government, traditional rulers, NGOs, and then what the hard power component that can be done by the security agencies. But overall, you need serious and credible intelligence, because what you are doing is an intelligence-driven operation. And so after their analysis of Commander-in-Chief guidelines, they should be able to tackle this situation. And I said earlier on, they need to leverage on technology more. I heard you discussing, Kingsley and Kirian, this morning about drones and the rest. I think we need to insert more drones into the system. The Air Force have acquired some, but we need more. We need more drones. They can do more.
General Temblong, thank you very much. But I still want to stay with you to ask again another purely military managerial question. As part of the lessons to learn recently from what transpired, Dr. Kabir Adamu here rightly indicates, and indeed we all know, that in the first couple of years of the appointment of the service chiefs who were removed yesterday, there were major gains that were recorded. And then something happened. There were claims that they had overstayed their tenure. The president, as commander-in-chief of the armed forces, in his wisdom, decided to extend their tenure because the country was at war. But there were some voices, I'm sure you probably heard some of those voices and the views from the street, that after a while, the continued stay of the service chiefs beyond their age of service and even their age in real life, that's the fact that they had overspent their required number of years in service, tended to dampen the morale of their subordinates. Could this in a way have impacted on the outcomes we then started to see, where in the earlier years of their tenure as service chiefs, we were hearing success stories of the insurgents being taken out, and at some point, Sambisa Forest was declared as ground zero, and all kinds of things were taking place. And then all of a sudden, it seemed as if the insurgents were pouring back into the country, and then the northwest flank opened to bandits. What do we need to learn from this?
Well, thank you very much, Kieran. That's Kingsley. That's a good question. Definitely, you know that. Okay, let me give you the example. The outgone chief of defense staff was 25th regular course. The new chief of defense staff now is 34th regular course. So you can see the number of courses in between the old and the new. The outgone chief of army staff was 29th, and then the new one is 35th. So you can see the number of courses. So definitely within the system, there will be some officers who would have thought they could have made up to the service chief. So you could see courses 30, 31, 32, 33, 34 never made service chiefs, and it's just 35th. So definitely within that system, they will be there. And with our system now, you have a lot of people who are clamoring, even putting ideas into the head of some of the military officers, because I understand the chief of army staff did mention that when he was decorating some officers about people talking to them. So there will be some restiveness, definitely, that you expect. You expect too that we reach a stage where you had some governors openly criticizing the military in front of the whole international community and the rest. Those sort of things dampen morale. So definitely those situations were there. But you see, you could understand the thinking of the commander-in-chief, and having been a military officer himself and having studied military history and having trained in the U.S. too, you will understand that during the Second World War, General Eisenhower, General Patton, General Field Marshal Montgomery, General Wavell, General Slim, Lord Mountbatten, and the rest, once the war started, they were General Bradley and the co. They were there until the end of the war, from 1939 to 1945. So you understand, if the commander-in-chief thought of continuity, keeping them together there, he was looking at, it's not something new, it has happened before. You understand too that General Ejo was chief of staff for a very long time. In fact, I think it's just Buratai that has gone some 6 months over and above him. After Buratai, General Anjuma served for about 51 months or so as chief of army staff. So it's not something new. It's just that there is this restiveness, and then there is a yen, and then everybody's in a hurry. Everybody wants to get things changed and the rest. So definitely you expect that within the system and even within the states and the civil population itself, there would have been that elements of people not cooperating. But as it is now, the decision has been taken by the commander-in-chief, and I think what he has done is that he has put square pegs in square holes, and we expect that these people should be up and doing. It's very essential that sometimes you weigh the gains of continuity and change in an operation that is so complex and fluid. And for those who have actually reversed the situation, like you said, before 2015, we had some local governments that were under Boko Haram, even though towards the end of the Jonathan administration, they rolled back a lot of the local governments that were under Boko Haram. But the present, the outgone service chiefs completed the job. So I think for that we'll give them their dues for doing that credible job. But as it is now, a decision has been taken, a decision that has been widely accepted by everybody. I had cautioned here in the past that service chiefs are not elected, and I'm sure very few people have actually known who Rabo was, except for the fact that he was commander, multinational joint task force theater commander. Very few people would have known who Atairu was, or who Amao, or who Gambo is. It is the commander-in-chief who is the commander-in-chief, has the prerogative to put them. And the buck stops on his table. And so I think if we have anything purely, it should move towards them. The National Assembly, I have had my quarrel with them. They're not doing their oversight functions well, because they should learn from what is happening in the U.S. During the Gulf War, we had members going physically to see them and calling the commander to the Congress to ask him his strategy, his task, his capabilities and capacities. What are his requirements? And these are not being done here. You expect people to do magic for you when you have problems. In fact, when you appropriate money, you should ask the service chiefs, have they been released? Have the money been released to them? And what have they used it? Have you received the equipment? What are the problems? These are questions that were not seen being asked in the public domain. They have been done in other civilized climes. Well, I think part of the problem is we have always relied and said that we have had a long stay in military, but I tend to disagree with that. We have had 21 years uninterrupted period of civilian rule, and so by now we should have been able to learn the ropes. A 21-year-old, somebody born in 1999 would have casted votes right now. He will be a vote-carrying person. So this excuse is not always an excuse. Before we were giving excuse about colonial past, military, we will continue passing the buck. Let's face the situation squarely. And to correct something that Kabiru said, General Admiral Poindexter was in service when he was a national security advisor. Alexander Haig was in service when he was a chief of staff to the president. General Colin Powell was still in service when he was the national security advisor. The present Surgeon General of the U.S. is a service naval officer, admiral, who is still in service. So I think we need to get some of this right, that the military itself is an instrument of state policy. It's not on its own. And it should be, if it is the instrument of choice by the administration to use, it is being used. And in any national security engagement, the military takes the center stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jude, for that implicit analysis. Of course, it's really clear, that the military is also part of society and part of the policy. So service chiefs can also play a role in the democratic dispensation. That's what I understand from what he said. Now, back to the studio here, Dr. Kabiru Adamu. Look, the issue of collaboration comes in here. In Nigeria, we've had in the past that issues concerning the Navy, Army, having issues, some sort of misunderstandings and squabbles, and as the case may be. Now, with the appointment of new service chiefs, what would you expect from them in terms of collaboration, intelligence sharing, and of course, collective planned approach, to fight this asymmetric war we're talking about, and perhaps other insecurity issues that we have across the country. What do you expect from them? Because Nigerians will believe that new things are going to happen. This is a new vista of opportunities that Nigerians are expecting to see how we can have results, from the new dispensation in the military. So what should they be doing with respect to this issue of collaboration and sharing intelligence, using same, applying same in the fight against terror and other insecurity issues that we have in the country?
Thank you, Chief Kirian. It's absolutely important for the entire military to recognize the fact that they are not going to be measured, on their units. Nigerians will measure them as a whole. So their performances, so no matter how good the army is, and if the Air Force, for instance, is failing in certain regards, and we can talk about field operations where you expect close air support from the Air Force to the ground troops, and then they don't get that close air support. Or unfortunately, the army is undertaking an operation, and then the Air Force sometimes drop bombs in that location, and then it affects them. I'm giving scenarios here. So the Nigerian is not going to judge them or assess their performances individually. It's going to assess their performances on the outcome of the expectation. So in this, as an example, terrorism or piracy or banditry. We're not going to say, did the army do well? No, it's the military as a whole. So to that extent, the leadership would need to sit down and fashion out a platform for synergy. And I think it's absolutely important that the coordinating units within the national security architecture, the service chiefs subject themselves to those coordinating units. The Minister of Defense, as an example, the Minister of, the National Security Advisor. I wanted to mention the Minister of Interior, but because of the peculiarity of the Nigerian situation, I know it will be a bit difficult, really, for the service chiefs, but they need to cooperate with that ministry. Because remember, almost all, I think a significant portion of the 23 ministries, departments, and agencies that I mentioned are supervised by the Ministry of Interior. So there is need for great collaboration between the two, as it were, the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Interior. And then lastly, the presidency. We were here when the incumbent National Security Advisor actually wrote a letter to the president complaining about the role that is being played by someone within the presidency with regards to his relationship with the service chiefs. So that's a gray area that needs to be addressed, because I say this, currently the Office of the National Security Advisor is about to launch an intelligence fusion center. And that intelligence fusion center would answer directly your question. So imagine a situation where the service chiefs, as it were, isolate themselves and do not fit into that intelligence fusion center or take advantage of the intelligence that will come from that fusion center. So it's absolutely important that they understand the role of these coordinating units within the national security architecture and then take advantage of whatever fit that will come from it. Having said that, I would like to correct an impression by Brigadier General Tenglong when he talked about oversight by the National Assembly. I think, to be fair to the National Assembly, they've been playing that oversight. We were all here when someone like Senator Ndume came out publicly and spoke. He referred, after visiting the field, he went there severally and then came back and said talked about equipment deficit within the army. He also talked about funding for the military. So I think that oversight function is there, but can it be improved? Yes, it can be improved. And I think persons like General Tenglong have a role to play because of the vast experience and knowledge they have. Remember, when I spoke about our military past, one of the institutions of government that has suffered from our military past is the legislature, actually. So we are conscious of the lack of capacity, as it were, for some of the committees within the legislature for oversight. And we can help them actually by training them and giving them templates and for this type of oversight. And then on the other hand, will the military itself subject itself to the oversight? That's the point I was talking about when I mentioned about our history and past. The military itself needs to subject itself. It's done very well from, under the Fourth Republic. It's done absolutely very well, but there is room for improvement. There are dark spots within our recent history that if that oversight had been more effective, and then perhaps that dark spots would not have happened. The most recent one is the Lekki shootout and its consequences. Perhaps if the oversight was more effective, those type of things would not have happened. The complaint around human rights, heavy-handedness by the military, those are all areas that I think if oversight was better, then it would have been managed, in a more, effective and efficient way by the military. But having said that, I think we're at a good spot. And this is the time for us to take advantage of a lot of the things that have been mentioned here, including synergy, which is the crux of your question, and then the use of technology. But then in talking about the use of technology, even with regards to synergy, the interface between the current models or modules that the military is using and then the technology that it has brought in. We talk about convergence. I'm sure Dr. Una would understand this very well in military parlance or security parlance. You have a platform that you've already adopted over a period of time, and then you are bringing in a new technology. The convergence between this new technology you are bringing in and the existing one is absolutely important. So we need to be very careful because we have a lot of assets, and I'm very happy to note that the immediate past service chiefs have acquired tremendous assets, in a very commendable manner. But then is there convergence between what we had and then these new ones? And then how would these new service chiefs take that forward in terms of the convergence? We're about to employ new soldiers. Are they going to be trained on these new platforms or the old ones? So there are a lot of issues at play, but I think the disposition of the current world, as it were, is to have a light and readily deployable force with the requisite equipment to tackle the threats that is at the moment. What are our threats? We know our threats: terrorism, banditry, and kidnapping. The equipment that have been procured, are they commensurate to tackle these threats? So those are all the issues that, I think in terms of a SWOT analysis, the new service chiefs will have to do. So that General Tenglong mentioned strategies. We have the strategies, and they are domiciled in the Office of the National Security Advisor. The kinetic component of the warfare we're pursuing, that document is domiciled there. The soft power that General Tenglong talked about, the countering violent extremism, is the framework upon which we're pursuing that soft power. Now, is it the responsibility of the service chiefs to, as it were, commandeer that document? No. They need to subject themselves to the custodian of that document. Because remember, they are not operating in silos. They are operating as part of a security architecture. And if we are going to have the kind of successes that General Tenglong mentioned, and very commendable actually, because you cannot have kinetic warfare when the soft component is not working effectively. And I agree with him, it's the role of the governors, but it's not for the service chiefs to take that document to the governors. Rather, it is those coordinating bodies that I mentioned. So there are a lot of issues at play, and like I said at the beginning, our perception of the role of the service chiefs need to change. They are there, as General Tenglong rightly mentioned, instruments of security, within the national security architecture. But then the kind of overwhelming dominance that we have given to them and that they have embraced, unfortunately, needs to be corrected.
All right. Dr. Kabir Adamu, thank you very much. While you were speaking, you were talking about some of the accomplishments of the former service chiefs. I think that one thing that is also remarkable, one of the services actually extended the frontiers of the R&D, that is research and development. There was a great deal of focus on that. I think it was one of the services that the Air Force that actually did that, and we're expecting that there will be a further ramp up in that regard. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation and also take some of your tweets.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the game changer, His Excellency Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Broadcasting in a digital economy, Maxwell Logo gives an insight. This edition also features Nancy Naji of AIT, a name synonymous with business. Meet the NCDC boss, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, also x-rays the relevance of social media in the modern society. Meet some TV professionals who have impacted their spaces and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide your indispensable companion.
When times are tough, we know that as a mother, one thing you should never compromise on is your family's oral health, because they deserve the best. Oral-B, all-round protection. Its great value, it protects your mouth from harmful bacteria and also protects you against tooth holes and gum problems which can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your family's teeth and gives them all-round protection. So remember, protect their future. Oral-B for healthier, stronger teeth in just 1 week.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Their first win in the Premier League, Sheffield United travelled to the Etihad Stadium to take on second-place Manchester City. Will they get a reality check, or can they pull off the upset? Find out as Manchester City welcomes Sheffield United on the Premier League Live, showing this Saturday on the NTA network from 3:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Bye Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up, in association with Gold.com.
Welcome back, and you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's return to Lagos via Zoom to Dr. Ona Ekhomo. Dr. Ona Ekhomo, I'd like you to speak to one public perception issue with regard, again, looking back to the former service chiefs. There were some views that despite the calls on the then service chiefs to quit, they could not have on their own resigned. Some persons felt, oh, all right, they were enjoying, in their own words, enjoying the gravy, and that's why they couldn't stay. But some knowledgeable insiders said it was a demonstration of loyalty and also to avoid any perception of thinking some dangerous ideas outside of the service. Could the service chiefs have quit, any of them, to say, look, yes, I've done my best, but it appears that we've hit the end of the road?
Thank you very much, Honorable Kingsley. I think it's not in our character to do that here in Nigeria. We don't appointments. As it were. So I think I also leave that to politicians to deal with. But I want to come to an important issue that Dr. Kabir mentioned, convergence. You see, now we are looking at mitigation and solution of our various spectrum of threats, what I call sometimes galaxy of threats. We have to look at how these things come together. And then I want to bring in specifically, what are we doing in terms of predicting where we ought to be? And what methods are we using? Extrapolation, projection, forecasting, and then what is the dimension of the cause and effect, C&E, of this galaxy of threats? Because if you don't understand the problem you are trying to solve, unfortunately you can't solve it. I mean, you can speak to it. Okay, let's put it this way. We call it the type 3 error. The probability of solving the wrong problem. And that is where we are, because I hear a lot of talk about, the problem in the Northeast. Well, that virus, just think about COVID-19. That virus was not cured. We talk about the first 2-year romance of the old service chiefs, and then later there's a decline. Oh, yes, because that virus was not understood and cured properly. That is why it has mutated now. Yes, of course, the problem of banditry has been there, but they were given new oxygen by the fact that the insurgency in the Northeast could not be killed. And that's why these fighters from West Africa, from the Sahel, flowed into Nigeria. And that's the new problem we have. So where does that keep us now? So go back again to my to my models of projecting the future. If we don't do something aggressive, and that is why, again, I want to thank Mr. President for injecting new blood into the system. If we don't do enough and something aggressive right now, this is going to mutate even further. So this insurgency, it is one of two things. It's one of three things. We are going to win against the insurgency, and this insurgency you see all over. Whatever name or label you put on it is insurgency all over, whether it's in the North Central, whether it's in the Northeast, Northwest, Southwest, South, it's insurgency all over. We are going to win the battle, or the insurgents are going to defeat us, or we're going to have a stalemate. Right now, what happened after the first 2 years of the old service chiefs was a stalemate. We got into a stalemate where we now said, okay, let us go into super camps. Let's defend ourselves against them. I thought we were the authorities. So we shouldn't be doing that. So we have to bring in new thinking and new methodologies of solving this very complex problem. It's not a simple problem by any stretch of imagination, and you need the best mental tools to solve it.
I just wondering, Dr. Akomo, thanks a lot. I want to bring in another aspect because in the course of your analysis and responses to our questions, we've talked about those problems that we readily see and feel, namely terrorism or insurgency, banditry, and kidnapping. But there remains the threat to the nation's blue economy, where you have piracy on the high seas, where you have crude oil theft, and these problems have lingered for years. And now, to use the analogy of Dr. Onai Ehomo, I wouldn't know whether we are at a stalemate, or whether we are winning, or whether we've been defeated. And I'm just saying that, all right, so we can tolerate some measure of piracy and banditry and robbery on the high seas. These are factors that sometimes increase our cost of shipping. Also, of course, leads to leakages in our national revenue. That's usually a function for the Navy, but we do not appear, from our own perspective, to have made much success of that.
Currently, the Gulf of Guinea is recording the highest incidence of piracy in the whole world. And, of course, the biggest country in the Gulf of Guinea is Nigeria. And tremendous investment has been made by the government in the Navy to tackle that. Of course, there is a regional body. The U.S. pressured us to create that body, but then Nigeria is as it were, dominant superpower in that region. And so the expectation is that if Nigeria plays its role, especially in galvanizing its own shores and then the other neighboring countries, then we see a reduction in that. And I agree with you totally. It does have an impact on our economy. The good thing is that the revised National Security Strategy document 2019 recognizes all of these things that we're talking about, all the components of national security. Is it health security, food security, name them, it recognizes that. But the challenge has been the implementation of that document, and then more importantly, the coordination between these various elements. And then the most important one for me, that's the elephant in the room. How do you measure these performances? Of course, we keep on putting money in these organizations, and they keep on telling us that they're doing X, Y, Z. But how do we measure these performances? And I think it would be unfair to place that responsibility on the service chiefs or even the Ministry of Defense. That's a responsibility that, to an extent, the National Assembly and the Presidency will need to come together and ensure that monitoring and evaluation is enhanced within those organizations so that we have metrics. And in metrics, we should have key performance indicators. We're talking of piracy, for instance, in the Gulf of Guinea. And the world bodies have come out with figures to show that's where you're having the highest incidences of piracy in the world. So why don't we have an expectation, the key performance indicator, to say, okay, if in 2020 we recorded 500 incidences, we want by 2021 for it to drop to, let's say, 100, so that at the end of 2021 we can now look back and say that has been achieved, or no, it has been achieved, and these are the reasons X, Y, Z. And of course, we now take improvement. So that's how, for the entire security subsector, we have that challenge. And there has been a lot of clamor. The National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, for the past few years, have been talking about this enhanced monitoring and evaluation within the national security architecture. I know this is not the focus of our conversation, but one key area that I would strongly recommend is a total security sector reform that would look at these areas: monitoring and evaluation, corruption. Unfortunately, it's one key element that we are not speaking about enough. In your question, you indicated that perhaps part of the reason why the service chief will not resign, and that's the perception by a lot of people, is because they are benefiting from the gravy within the sector. There is no auditing within the sector, no a proper auditing, as it were. So there is a lot of room for leakages. You and I were aware that someone was moving how many billion naira in cash from Sokoto by road when that money was intercepted. And then go to Maiduguri, there are hotels that are owned by several generals, really. And, I'm not saying anything is wrong with that, but then conflict of interest. So there is a lot that can be done in this regard, and the only thing that can solve that is an entire security sector reform.
All right, we'll propose you there, as we have so many the tweets here coming from Nigerians who are part of this program from their various homes. So we have several of them. Kinsley, I hope we'll have time to
we just
all of them. Mobola Hobab says every person ever appointed as service chief had done their part to national security. The newly appointed chiefs have their mandate cut out for them already. Prior to the appointment, we knew what the situation was. They came and did their best. The new hands should consolidate.
Yahaya Yaro tweets, now the appointment of the new service chiefs is long overdue. However, it's still a welcome development. And for those newly appointed, we wish them all the best in their new roles.
Comrade Ngala says the service chiefs tried their best in tackling the insecurity in the country. Kudos to all of them. And for the new service chiefs, I wish them success and good health. They have a big task.
All right. Daily Jack Solomon tweets, says, congratulations to the new service chiefs. We urge them to be loyal and dedicated in the discharge of their responsibilities to the country.
Steve Bond, the new service chiefs now know they better do well than the former.
And Utula Sunday, we hope that the new service chiefs will hit the ground running immediately.
Vladimir says it was a step towards the right direction. They need to adopt new security strategies.
Festus Akimboyewa says that's the new service chiefs, must work as a team, and the federal government should give them the weapons needed to defeat Boko Haram and bandits.
And I believe they already know what is on ground. Therefore, ensure personnel readiness, policy planning, and training of their respective services for the combatant commanders to utilize and ensure our nation's security.
All right, this is from Yunusa Idris. The new service chiefs should, as a matter of urgency, adopt innovative technology as well as synergize with sister institutions.
All right, Leo Fadaka, surely the security architecture has gained a boost after a persistent pressure from Nigerians over increasing insecurity. With synergy, we hope the new service chiefs will tackle insecurity differently and stamp out banditry and insurgency.
Mike Ayakwo says the service chiefs should work and collaborate with locals in the areas of intelligence gathering. We wish them good luck in their new assignments.
Law Alpha C, Nigerians have long clamored for a replacement of the service chiefs like fans would if a football coach would pour outings. But I think support from both governments in the area of educating motivation and citizens will ensure their success.
Ajiboye Olubumi, a good move, though long overdue. However, better late than never. The task ahead of the new service chiefs is synergy.
The appointment is long overdue. Okay, that's what we just read. Festus, we read one from Festus. Let's say Jamil for peace. As a new set of people with new approach and new ideology, I think new idea will go a long way in filling the vacuum left by their predecessors.
Jones Ferrari, the problems of Nigeria are not the service chiefs. We need to change some military doctrines. Some of the doctrines are old and pre-colonial.
All right. We have Multana Farouk. The appointment of service chiefs is a welcome development to the fight against insurgency in Nigeria. However, there is urgent need for the recruitment of more personnel, improvement of their welfare, especially the police force, and the manufacturing of weapons locally.
Bello Muhammad, I hope Nigerians will be patient with the new service chiefs and pray for them at these trying times. All right, so those are the tweets that we can take for today. We'd like to thank all of you for writing in, and our guests, of course, who will be with us, our regular security analysts. We appreciate them for being part of this conversation. From our Just Network studios, we're joined by General John Temlong, First Commander, Multinational Joint Task Force, and also a former president of the Alumni Association of the National Defense College. General Temlong, always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria. Via Zoom from Lagos, Dr. Ona Ehomo, pleasure having you again on Good Morning Nigeria. Always, we're grateful to you. And here in the studios, Dr. Kabir Adamu, our security expert and one of our regulars. We thank you for your insights, and we deeply appreciate your being with us, often at short notice.
Thank you, Kingsley. The pleasure is mine.
All right, so, and that's Good Morning Nigeria for today.
Absolutely,
we thank all of you for being part of it. My name is Kieran. Have a great day and stay safe.
I'm Kingsley Osadolo. Stay safe and be well. See you tomorrow, same time, 7 in the morning.
What limits you? Nothing. Who defines you? No one. Where can you go? Everywhere. With unlimited super-fast internet access, free Intel to Intel calls, and crystal clear quality conversations, you can do and be whatever you want to be.
Intel. Live more.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International, your window to the world.
You can follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online, or visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.ng/live. Now, you can stay updated on the go, be it on your TV, iPhone, laptop, or iPad, or download the NTA mobile application from your Play Store or App Store. NTA, you can beat the rich.
I am a Nigerian. I am one in 5 Africans. I am a Nobel Prize winner, a soccer champion, a giant of literature, a musical icon. My roots lie in the dusty Sahel of the north, in the rich rainforests of the east, in the savanna plains of the west, and in the oil-filled swamps of the delta. My strength flows from the waters of the Niger and the Benue. Nigeria is my home. I am the voice of 200 tribes speaking more than 200 languages. I am...
This is the network service of the NTA.
Say, a generous person is not a fool, and anybody who gives a gift also has a reason for giving the gifts, good or bad. And now, in the act of giving something, there are two people, the one who's receiving the gift and the one who is giving the gift. Both of them somehow should be appreciated. Now, you find that there are some people who would like to give gifts, but they would feel that, this person is already too rich. What can I give to this person? Yes, there are people like that who all they do is receive because they feel that the person giving already has too much. But our elders say, no matter how small what you are giving is, don't worry. The thoughts really count because they have said, we do not refuse a gift. That means no gift is ever too small. No gift is to be seen and, in quote, laughed at. It's actually the thought that truly matters. A person may want to give a gift to show appreciation for something from the goodness of his or her own heart, but may find it difficult in maybe knowing what to do. Basically, because of what I said before, they may feel the person whom they are thinking of giving that to has too much. But our elders have said, the plans in a man's heart may not rise as high as a man's knee when they are put into action. So the lazy man does only the little he can. No, this time we're not saying your gift is lazy. No, but they're just saying that you have these very huge plans in your heart, but maybe because of financial constraints, you're not able to buy exactly that thing you want for that person. And so, just as the lazy man would do when it comes to work, do same with a gift. Do what you can. It could be your time. It could be just sending a message to check on the person. It could be helping out when they need some help. There is nobody in this world that is so rich that would not appreciate a kind gesture. So, who are you? Are you the one who just sits back every time and all you want to do is receive, receive, and receive? Our elders have said, the hand that gives out a rose always has the scent of the rose lingering on. That means that good you're doing somehow will come back to you in another format. Blessed is the hand that giveth and the one that taketh. Remember that? Let's think about this. And to help us put it in perspective, let me read something to you. When a benefactor is not absolutely happy over the quantity or quality of a gift, he may politely plead with the receiver to have it, for the hand is not as long as the leg. But the receiver, who is definitely satisfied, would counter this by saying that it is the host who has any food at all to serve a guest that would say, just manage this. What would he who has nothing to offer say? That is the question. So for our thoughts for the week, are you satisfied with just receiving and never giving because you feel everybody has more than you? Think about it, my friend, because always receiving and never giving doesn't give room for growth. I'll see you next time. Till then, take care of yourselves and remember, blessed is the hand that giveth than the one that taketh. Bye-bye.
Hello, are you staying safe and protected? That's a question we must always ask ourselves each day because it reminds us to ensure that we follow protocols and show ourselves a bit of love. And at the end of the day, we also transmit same to people around us. Now, today, I'll just go the way my French brothers and sisters will say it, aujourd'hui, jeudi. What do I mean? We're going to be rocking a lot of tables. So today, if I bring it to our Nigerian local palace, and why would we be doing that? That's because we're going to be touching issues that have been, trending for a long time now, both within the high place society and even the very low ones. It is the DNA and the paternity issues. Well, I don't know. I have lots of people here with me. By the way, my name is Elizabeth, and I know that...
Hi Liz, it's been a while. I think we're seeing each other for the first time this year.
So, Happy New Year.
So, yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2021. And I think 2021 is that year nobody will mix up with 2020. Usually what happens is, well, as you go into the new year, you come with the residue of the previous year. So as you're signing documents, you're signing in the old year.
I actually have done it.
No?
Yes, I've done it this year.
No.
I did.
I have not signed 2020 even by mistake,
okay.
even once, on anything.
Okay,
I'm
I get
so
it.
well aware of the fact that I'm in 2021 and I'm hoping
I see fear.
To be a far departure from what 2020 was. So Happy New Year, everybody, and a beautiful 2021.
Okay, and
Kevin Fireface, it's a good thing seeing the ladies. I'm not intimidated anyway. Yeah, because I grew up in the midst of women, so I have so many of them. And women are actually the most powerful beings on earth, so...
I hear a bit of bribery,
No, that's not a bribery.
You're trying to tell us, please don't do anything to me.
No. It's just basically appreciating the essence of womanhood. And most times I find that when you appreciate the woman as she's supposed to be, it's hardly appreciated in return.
Okay, so we'll be nice to him. All right.
Nice. All right. Happy New Year, everyone. My name is Lynette. Lynette means, do you know the meaning of Lynette?
No.
It's French. It means the pretty one.
Oh my God.
Yes.
She actually, bien, right? Okay. C'est beau, Lynette, bien. Okay, the pretty one. All right, we're speaking French or we're speaking English, but at the end of the day, we're going to be talking about the DNA and paternity issues, especially as it's been trending today. Do you know your real father? That's a question for you to answer later. For now, we'll take a break. When we come back, we talk more.
I like the way she does.
When there's a child out there that's not getting the same that your own child is getting, the difference will tell, and there will come a time in the society where that child is going to take its pound of flesh.
Where you can actually, everything from watching a program with the child, you can start up the conversation from something on the TV and say, oh,
For me, it's like, hurry up with this business. And the other one said, Auntie, it's not about me, it's about the guys, they're not ready to marry.
Yes. If she wants to ask something, no, I know my mother very well. In fact, the most interesting one is when I put up pictures on WhatsApp, Snapchat filters and all that, she will call me, remove that picture. There was a day I got tired of all that and I said,
don't forget to send in your messages.
There's a difference between picking, child, and issue. That is can do more with less people.
If we have a better way of addressing these issues, taking care of...
Congratulations, you've been able to sign Timo Werner from RB Leipzig.
So you take water before your workout.
People have used their phone, using TikTok to do this,
Should I go for test?
A lot of people don't even have resources.
I'm Cecil, and this is the Medley Show on NTA.
right, I started when we started by saying that in the French territory we simply say aujourd'hui, because we intend to rock a lot of tables. And I asked a question before the break: do you know your real father? Do you know your biological father? Who really is the real father? I don't know. But then, Devon, I don't know, have you heard recently, you know, the whole talk about the DNA test and a lot of things going on with it? What's your view on it?
There's so much going on with that, and I think it's sad because it shows that marriages are extremely dysfunctional. If the number of such cases we're seeing, it seems to be escalating, you know, and for me, I keep feeling that it's a foundational thing. The foundation that first of all produces these individuals that are capable of this level of deceit, and then the motivation for getting married. It was only after I married that I came to realize that, listen, there are a range of marriages out there. Not every marriage is based on love, romance, or all these things. No. People are in arranged marriages. Some work, some don't. People marry because of what they think they can get out of it. People marry because, well, family ties, you know. So there are a range of reasons why people marry, and they're not always necessarily the best reasons. And when you find yourself in a situation where you don't feel any sense of loyalty to your spouse, or where you don't have enough communication between you, I feel as if these are the kinds of things that could put a woman in a place where she thinks it's okay not only to have extramarital affairs, but to actually have the nerve to bring a child into her matrimonial home that she knows does not belong there. Because believe me, I think 95% of the time these women are well aware of the fact that they are putting a child in this household that belongs elsewhere. Sometimes it's intentional. This man has been cheating on me. Oh, I'm going to show him. There's that. Sometimes the woman is the type that just doesn't have any scruples, doesn't see anything wrong with rolling around the whole place, and all kinds of things. But I feel that at the end of the day, foundational, the first home that produced this person, what kinds of values were you given? Why do you think this is okay? And then the second part of it is, why are you in this marriage? So I feel as if these are the two reasons. If we're able to get to the bottom of these two things I've mentioned, we might be able to reach an agreement on why there's an escalation of children being born in homes where they shouldn't be.
Honestly, I noticed you wanted to say something as you was talking.
Well, as she rightly said, marriages, you know, these days, especially in this part of the world, are done for most times the wrong reasons. Sometimes it's just to please family members. Sometimes it's an arrangement between parents, as she said. And then sometimes it's just to own the status. You know, not because you're in love with the person, not because you share visions with the person. And that's going to lead to a lot of issues because you don't agree on a whole lot of things. Emotionally, the person is starved. Romantically, the person is starved. Now, humans are created to love and give love. And eventually, when you're emotionally starved, what do? I don't support adultery. But something led to something. Yes, some people don't have any morals. They don't see anything wrong with it. But then there are a few that were pushed to do such things, sometimes even by the man, because he couldn't be productive. Maybe he has issues with reproduction. And then he has an arrangement with the woman. Go get pregnant outside and give me a child. It happens. You know, it's really sad. I think that marriage should have proper values, and people need to understand what marriage is before they get into it, and then there'll be less issues.
You know, if I had a relationship where the man is not productive and is asking me to go outside and do something, man, he has to write it down. Because if the time comes when issues begin. Sometimes, stress in marriages could actually lead people to do certain things. The man begins to say, okay, they are not my children. I would go back to that document and it will be discussed in front of certain people. Maybe immediate family members like your parents or those who want to deal with their pastors, you get to do. But definitely it shouldn't just be a discussion, a verbal discussion between two of you. If you want to keep it between two of you, have it documented somewhere, But having said that, I also think that, and maybe I'll share a little story. A lady I know was visiting a man, and at a point, the man began to dodge her. And I tried to ask questions, what's the problem? And he said, she's asking me for what I cannot give. And when I probed further, the journalist in you begins to work. The man said, she wants me to help her make a baby or make babies. And I got curious, what's wrong with you? You're married, blah, 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 blah. He says, my husband can't do it. I've tried to do tests with him, he can't, and he's still not in agreement. So I just want to get it done, I tried to educate her. I said, if your husband is incapacitated, it should be a dialogue you and him will have. If you have to do it, there are medical ways of doing it. If you can't afford it and he needs assistance, let him be the one to choose. Don't get involved. I don't know. You're looking at me.
No, I'm looking at you because it's actually not strange. I think a lot of the time what we need to come to appreciate is the fact that we've been very insincere with ourselves. Society has been so unfair to itself by putting so much pressure, making people to get married in the manner they got married into relationships for economic reasons, for societal status, for family, sustainability, generational linkages. All of those factors, contribute to what we see today. Don't forget that even in the Bible, we saw where Sarah had asked Abraham, to go get, because she needed for him to get a child that she can take ownership of. Now, that was a contractual relationship. When we begin to be clear...
But like I said, they had to discuss it. There was a discussion. So it didn't cost problem.
I said, it was still between just both of them.
So the third party wasn't involved.
Exactly.
I've had, situations where I've been approached before, not once, not twice, to father a child. Yes.
Wow. Did you do it?
No, I didn't. Okay. Because I asked certain questions. How do I get to father a child I'm not going to be connected to? The impression is that, I don't want you to be involved in this whole thing. I just want you to have this thing. Don't worry. Nobody's going to know about it. I said, no. I can't give out my blood because actually sperm is actually blood if you put it in the sun. I can't give out my blood without taking ownership. That's irresponsibility. I won't be able to do that too. I need to be able to discuss with other parties involved to be sure this is what we're doing. If we take away the secrecy involved in all of these things, we take away the shame that sometimes we want to protect, and we put ourselves out there and honest with this thing, I think we'll begin to reduce this whole thing. A lot of the time, for fear of shame, for fear of societal, estimation that, okay, you can't give birth to all those things, people tend to look for ways to cut corners. And the women suffer the most. Now, she said something about morals, which is the foundation. What are we teaching our kids? What values are they seeing us living that they can hold on to and say, this is sacrosanct? We don't have that anymore. It is comme say, comme ça right now. Anything goes with people. So a woman gets into a relationship, she knows she wasn't supposed to get into that relationship, but because she needed to impress her friends that she's married, and she has, I read somewhere just recently, she's in love with this other guy. The guy happens to give her satisfaction on bed, in bed rather, and she also has this guy she's getting married to, and the challenge now she's having, that she's married, and the husband can't do this. 5 years in marriage, the husband can't satisfy her, emotionally, and so she's trying to negotiate with the ex-boyfriend, who is also married, so she can get the satisfaction she desires, and while she still remains in her home. That's now, if horrible. She gets in there and she does raw, guess what? Pregnancy comes in. She will keep quiet because she doesn't want people to get to know, isn't it? The child now comes in, the father look at the son, this is not my child. Behavioral patterns start changing. It becomes a major embarrassment to the society and to them. So we have all of these things happening. So we need to go back to the foundation. The society also needs to take ownership. Let's stop shaming people because they can't give birth to. And it's also important that before you get into a relationship, do all tests that are necessary to be done.
Exactly.
You can't pretend that you know you are infertile, and you're not pretending to be fertile. You contact a woman, you might have the right to leave that marriage rather than, adjusting and accepting whatever this you're bringing in. Do you understand? Let society not shame them that you left your marriage because the man can't do this thing. I've had cause to ask a lady to leave her marriage because of that. It was a phoning program. I was in a show, and it was a phoning program. The lady said they got married. The man didn't say that that he was infertile. It was after marriage that he started always doing prayers and wasn't touching her. Then after further program, he discovered that he was infertile. And the family is asking her to remain, that they will bring somebody that will impregnate her.
Wow.
And she asked the question, should I stay? I said, that's a contract relationship that got into deceit because the man wasn't sincere. In the law, she's entitled to leave the marriage. What kind of marriage?
Even in the canon law, I mean, the churches, if there is such deceit, the marriage is not just divorced, it's
foundation is faulty.
It is annulled. I know about that. That brings me to the role of a church. I know that what they do is to try to ensure that young people don't become amorous, before they get into marriage and violate themselves. So they try to make sure that while you're getting married, you have things in place. You don't do this, you don't do that, you don't do that, you don't meet and all that. But I think they should go extra mile too, because you talked about this, and I recall an incident of a man who could not, reproduce, and he didn't tell the lady. Eventually, things went the other way around. The marriage is no longer together, they're not together anymore. But then I felt if a church went extra miles to do a bit of a,
the
fertility test, both on the man and the woman.
Yeah, both.
As much as you're doing HIV test, I'm pretty sure in a little while
genotype, they do genotype, they do blood, they do HIV, and AIDS test. They should also do, fertility tests on both, partners. You mentioned the church. It's not just religion. Has actually contributed to the problem we have today.
Sure.
Religion has
it was actually supposed to solve the problem.
It was actually supposed to solve the problem. When we, because of pride of family, society, and we frown out, out of wedlock children, and you call them legitimate children, you frown out your daughter, why are we not teaching sex education? Why our kids not knowing the basic things they need to know, at the stages they need to know those things, rather than giving names to things? You call pennies, you give it Father Christmas, and you prevent them from understanding the core basic thing of their biology. What that does is that because of the secrecy that you've created around this thing, what it does, it creates room for adventurism. So they start trying out. So when she becomes pregnant, she keeps quiet. Right? She keeps quiet, and what's happening? The parents find a way to contract her into a marriage. In some part of the country, that's what they do. Once you're pregnant, they give you out like for free so that they take away the shame, right? Now, that is a foundational problem because that lady now realizes that, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. She teaches her kids the same pattern. And before this is happening, it's easy for them to be in their marriages, in their homes, and be having extramarital affairs and also bring children.
I think that's more of a culture thing than even religion. That's my personal opinion.
It's cultural on one side. The church itself will tell you, okay, because you're pregnant, you're banished, isn't it? They put you, if you used to be a member, a worship leader or
thank
a leader.
God it's not all churches.
It's not all.
If you pick it, you will see that you're always going to be ostracized. When they're ostracized, what happens? When is the healing process? That is where the problem comes in. People now tend to begin to fend for themselves, to do things that suit them. So today you find voices coming up to say, it's my life, I'll do what I want to do. So the moral basis with which we're supposed to guide ourselves is no longer there anymore.
Anyway, the program is interactive, and that means that you can actually write to us. You can, we don't receive calls, but we can take your text messages or WhatsApp. Get to find out your opinion. And I asked a pertinent question. I still want answers. Do you know your biological fathers? You were going to say something.
I like that question.
The whole thing boils down to a couple of things that should also be put in place. I feel child support and alimony should also be introduced into our system. There's nothing like that yet. Sometimes you talked about, shaming people and all of that. Now, on the other hand, how about the guys who are irresponsible, have children, know the children are theirs, and they deny them. Who's your father or your biological father? That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it goes both ways. Some are unaware that there's an issue, and then for others, they're aware, but I mean, they deny.
Sorry.
Excuse me. So they deny responsibility. Now, in that case, what's supposed to be done?
It's simple. When I hear or see fathers who kind of abandon their core responsibility, now I agree that sometimes the other partner might make it difficult for a father to have access to their children. Agreed. But I've always said it is in the place of a father, a good father, to do everything he can to reach out to his children. You cannot be absent in the lives of your children. You can't be. There's no excuse good enough to get you out of the responsibility of your children. Now, people do it. Now, I found out my little research. The reason why most men do this is to absolve themselves from the responsibility that they don't have capacity to carry.
Good.
Which is not excusable. Because in any small measure, you can actually reach out to the responsibility that you have with the kids, because these kids are so innocent.
They're innocent. They
don't deserve to suffer from the stupidity of these two adults.
Exactly.
Who had enjoyed themselves, in having the pleasure and the result by the blessings of God they have these kids.
Good.
So there is no excuse good enough. And we cannot, because parents are absolving themselves for some kind of responsibility, or fathers are absolving themselves for some kind of responsibility, now use that as a basis with which we want to do certain things. It's not good enough in bed. It can't father his child, and you want to do it outside. Absolve. Go out of the marriage and do it.
Exactly.
It's simple.
That's what I
you
tell
can't
people.
eat your cake and have it back.
Exactly.
Because the guy is rich, you want to pretend that, okay, well, fine. Then you find a way to satisfy yourself on the other side.
It's
what you're
selfishness.
doing is actually seeds. You're actually planting seeds that will destroy society in the future.
Exactly.
Because your act will go through the DNA of your children.
Exactly.
And they'll begin to live it out. Once they begin to have that magnetic field that attracts such kind of attitude, they start doing it in a way that with high proportion. So we can avoid all of those things, is to walk away from the marriage. Take your shame and walk away. So if you take your shame and walk away, it becomes fair when you tell your story. It's not good enough. It's not good. She's not good enough. She's not good enough. You can't, because your wife can't father a child for you. I mean, if you can't, because your wife can't conceive, mother a child for you rather, and you now begin to do something outside, that's deceit in the first place. Secondly, you've actually betrayed the trust that both of you had. Why don't you say, lady, I'm sorry, my desire is to have children. But unfortunately, you can't.
And
I love you so much,
if you
I can't do
discuss
it.
it before wedding or before marriage, it helps a whole lot. If you know that what I want paramountly is to have children, and at the end of the day, you can't give me children, you should better stop the marriage before it happens.
Before it happens.
If I may come in, I think we're taking... I think we're reducing this strictly... I could be wrong, but I feel as if I'm hearing so much about infertility. Yes, it's a factor. But a man could be perfectly fertile and virile, and him and the spouse are sexually incompatible.
True.
So when you say sexually incompatible, are you saying...
They don't enjoy each other sexually.
So that would result in not having, for the woman being conceived?
No.
Allow
me to
each party.
Okay.
When you don't experience sexual fulfillment, for those who lack self-control, it can lead to infidelity.
Sure.
That's very true.
Yeah. So regardless of how virile the man is, I mean, there have been instances of women complaining that this is somebody who wants to have sex 3 times a day, every day. I can't do it. That's sexual incompatibility. Is he virile? Yes.
Yeah.
Is he fertile? Probably. So it goes beyond, can he produce a child, to what is the level of sexual compatibility between the couple. Now, you find yourself in this bind where religion says don't have sex before marriage. Now, when you abide strictly by that, even when you find yourself in a situation where both of you are healthy, sexually active and all this, when there's incompatibility in the bedroom, it affects every other aspect, every other facet of the marriage.
True.
So whether the guy is the 1-minute man, whether he's the person who likes to run a marathon, if incompatibility is there, there's still that real possibility of a woman who lacks discipline, fear of God, and morals, just rolling out to hook up with her last best boyfriend who was really okay,
compatible with her,
and doing things with that person. And further, maybe it might result in a pregnancy which she might decide to keep. So there's that. Now, we were talking particularly about the DNA test, which is the deoxyribonucleic acid test. That's how long that name is. But I watch a lot of crime and investigation, so I've been familiar with the term long before it became a fad here. Now, I don't favor DNA tests, and let me explain why. It's not because I'm a woman and I would like women to, no. I find that kind of behavior despicable. I think that anybody that can bring a child from outside and give a man knowing that it's not his child and sit and cruelly watch that person toil to raise the funds to look at, I think you are cruel. I think you are innately, I think you have psychopathic tendencies. I think you can kill. I think you are innately a bad person.
Yes.
Because when a man does that, he can hardly escape it.
Yes.
You understand? At some point, maybe the woman outside, even if she's being kept a secret, she could get impatient one day, pick up the phone and tell you something nasty. It's hard for a man to hide it. He can hide it only for so long before it comes up. But if a woman wants to, and if the man is not attuned enough, he can raise a pile of kids that are not his and die and not know it. And I think that's the height of cruelty. So that's not where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a place of, there are women that will cheat on you with your brother.
It's true.
And DNA will not reveal that.
That's true.
Please take it to the back. It will not.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
Because it's the same DNA. No.
I've seen cases.
It's not. Please read it up. I read it up.
I know. I've seen cases.
A woman will also can also cheat on you with your father.
And it's the same DNA.
And then it brings in a lot of gray areas. Now that's one thing. There's that one yet. Now, I do not trust Nigerian laboratories. I'm sorry. I have known my genotype status right from when I was a small child. And all the manifestations and everything. But I've had labs, I've had occasions where, okay, they insist on a genotype test. Okay, so I go and do it to justify our righteousness. And I'm indicated AS. What are you saying? I've run the gamut of the experience of this whole thing. How am I AS on paper? I know people who are both AS who have married thinking they were AA because that was what the results came out as.
I've actually seen one like that.
I've had people get wrong pregnancy test results.
True.
I had a friend who was once diagnosed with cancer. Luckily, and in fact they told her they were going to take out her entire reproductive system.
Oh my God.
You know? Luckily for her, she didn't get excited about it. She stayed calm. She traveled outside the country, happened to visit her sister, who was at the time working with Johns Hopkins, and she did a proper evaluation. It turned out she only had a cyst.
Oh, wow.
So now you get up in all your self-righteousness, go and do this DNA test. It produces God knows what result. And then you cause chaos in your home, when perhaps, in fact, nothing has gone wrong.
You know, speaking of what...
I agree with you.
Yes.
And apart from that, what is to stop a woman who is really sinister from locating the particular lab and bribing them into giving you the results she wants?
They've done it.
So you understand, these are the gray areas I am worried about when it comes to the DNA test.
True.
So it goes beyond, Jerry, after all, no, that's not where I'm coming from. There are too many gray areas, that's one.
True.
Now, two, men can be stupid, I'm sorry. Most men have this innate thinking that they are fertile. Meanwhile, you got sexually active at the age of 16. You do stuff with prostitutes and you prefer doing it without a condom. In fact, you're one of these people who believes that prostitutes are even cleaner than all these women who pretend that they are decent. Your best thing to do is to have sex without protection. No, they claim that those ones,
because
go out
they know
of
it's
their way
their
to
business,
look
they
after
actually take
themselves.
extra care.
Oh, seriously.
So some men believe in that fallacy.
It's
So
a
you do
fallacy.
that rubbish without protection, with God knows who. Your favorite thing to do is to have as many conquests as possible. And you're forgetting to note down the number of
Yes, just
STDs.
checklist.
You've forgotten, while you're putting down that checklist of all the babes you've conquered, you've forgotten to put down a checklist of all the
germs
STDs
you've conquered too.
properly, which have brought you to a place where in the prime of your youth, you're infertile, dude. So when I don't even want to bring the church into this thing. Dude, you could be having all the sex in the world and be shooting blank bullets.
True.
So what you need to do is test you. Test you. How fertile are you even before you marry?
I think it's something that men on their own,
body.
without being asked, should ensure that they do these tests before
men
get
should
married.
also
They should know their status before
Some
they get
men know, and they choose
some
to just be
most
deceptive.
don't, out of
Yes,
ego.
most don't.
Me that can last like 2 hours. It's not that.
You know, a break actually beckons. My director is on my neck to do that. And I see lots of Nigerians writing, making contributions. When we take this break, we'll come back. We'll hear from you. And I hope I'll be getting the answers I'm looking for. The show is Conversations. Don't go away.
Of the coronavirus pandemic, information management is key.
I'm Cyril Stober.
Fatima Umar Buba.
Joseph Johnson.
Ian Ray John.
Muhammad Kudu Abubakar.
Jumbo Yusuf.
My name is Kirian Umaya.
Here in NTA, we're working very hard to make sure that everything we broadcast is accurate and up to date. Misinformation spreads very fast.
The social media has been a huge conveyor of misleading information from one individual to another, then to another set of groups. In a short while, it goes viral, and before you know it, it is all over the world.
There have been several misleading information on coronavirus, COVID-19. Recently, the misconception of 5G as a cause of coronavirus is becoming widespread. Another is the belief that hot beverages and alcoholic drinks are internal cleanser for COVID-19, thereby leading to excessive consumption of these drinks.
The use of local concoctions as treatment for COVID-19 are yet to be scientifically proven. However, there has been several theories about the efficacies of these concoctions. We should stay safe and denounce all manner of fake news and misleading information on COVID-19.
For medical advice, go on the WHO website, Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC website, or stick with the advisories from the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 or other authentic official sources. NTA is one of them.
All right, it's still Conversations, and we're looking at DNA and paternity tests. Lots of questions and messages coming here. We'll take them. But I need to ask, you know, if you find out your child who has been calling you father for maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, no matter the number of years, and you have shown this child, male or female, genuine love. You've also received the same from the child. Should the DNA, really be an issue? I mean, should you start hating the child? Should you reject the child? Because I know in certain culture here in Africa where whoever gives the birth or, fathers the child is inconsequential once the man has paid a bride price. I need you to answer that.
Beautiful. While you're asking that question, I started processing it, trying to put myself in the picture. What will I do? If I get to find out today that my 13-year-old son is not mine, the first thing that will happen is that anger and rage that will go to the mother.
Naturally, because you're a human being.
Then the next thing that will happen, I'll begin to analyze certain behavioral patterns over the years to say, was it why this boy was like this? And that will give me the excuse to gradually begin to cut off. Now, because I'm still in my prime...
What if a child has been the best of all your children?
No, this thing, I'm going somewhere now. Because I'm still in my prime, my next alternative is to begin to look for alternative routes to be able to get a son to replace him. The love that you have for someone, you can't take it away. Because love is unidirectional, except it's not love. The things I intend to do for this boy, I will do it. But the relationship will no longer be as it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, in frankness. So if it's good, yes, it's good. It goes on the fact that, yes, this person is good. So you, and on the merit. If it's not good, it further cuts off the flow of relationship that you have with the son. Then for the mother, that ends the relationship. There's no two ways about it. Now, in our culture, once a woman is married, whatever she brings in is yours. But that's deceit. You're deceiving yourself. It's like slavery. Because you paid for somebody said you think you own the person. You don't own the person. A time of reckoning will come and the person will walk away. A child will always find his father down the road. If it's not now, in adulthood it will happen. So we cannot continue to deceive ourselves under the guise of culture or religion to think that because you marry the person, you pay the bride price or you do all those stuff she does. It happened in my family. I'm sorry to say it happened because my stepmother actually brought about 3 of them. My father knew, and it was also obvious. Until his demise, everything was okay. So when it was time to share the estate, you know, it's their own siblings. The siblings from the same mother said, "Go look for your father."
You know, when women do these things, it's not even about, especially the ones who do it intentionally out of spite. You are on self-destruct.
True.
You are not doing anything to anybody. You said something about, oh, they don't know they're destroying the society. What is more pertinent is they do not realize that they're destroying themselves. Now, God forbid, somehow they stumble upon some information that makes them realize, Lord, okay, we all look like this daddy's friend. And I've been seeing weird text messages in mommy's phone and they begin to put 1 and 2 together and realize that the chances that this man fathered them is slim and all this. Sweetheart, you're going to receive a whole lot of resentment, possibly hate.
Hate from your kids.
From the kids. Yes. And their sympathy will be with this man that you think you have been hoodwinking.
Who is the victim?
Who is actually a victim. So he's going to attract, if they're reasonable, sensible kids, if he's the kind of father who has done his bit as a father. You know, pick up the bills, father them, emotional engagement and all these things, all that care. If that has all been there, if he has been able to justify all righteousness over time, and you're this person who is sitting there and you know deep in your heart that all the children are his best friend, you don't care any, at the end of the day, you'll be left alone.
That's true.
You will not have a legacy. They will not associate. People think that biology is enough. It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
That
You'll be
was
shocked
why I
at
asked
how
the
you will
question,
alienate yourself.
would it be proper to, disengage with the child if it happens? But let's take questions and more conversations rolling in. Good morning, sir. In our church, I think they're referring to you. You're the sir here. In our church, all tests are carried out before marriage. If the church is not satisfied with the test, they stop that marriage. And all these tests, from the hospital to the church marriage committee, you will not be allowed to see so that you don't influence the results. That's a good one to know. And you didn't write your name, but let's see. This one says, good morning, sir and man. 95% of our first child doesn't know their real father. Oh, because when the woman sleeps from Mr. A.B., she only gives the child to who can take care of him, not the real father. Okay, that's not a good one.
95% sounds high, I think.
So 95 is too high, I beg.
In
the case of an infertile man, I suggest the man to encourage the wife to secretly have an affair with an unknown person without telling the person. The reason for having an affair with him, by so doing it, will be only the woman who knows the biological father who may not know of the pregnancy. By so doing, they can keep their secret, provided devil will not stir a misunderstanding where the woman uses it against her husband.
That's a loophole.
That's a loophole already. Like you observe, if you want to keep it a secret, then
it will pop out.
All right. I'm enjoying your program. Your question is for women. I said this because it is only the woman that can tell who the real father is. My name is Alex from Makurdi. Okay. All right.
But what was the question?
I asked, do you know your biological father?
Oh, okay.
Nice program. We Africans are funny. When there is issue of unable to bear children, everyone is always pointing accusing fingers at the woman. It's actually true, which is why some women, push themselves to the extreme.
The excuse to push yourself to the extreme is not an excuse.
Thank you.
That we can tolerate. While you're reading this thing, my head was just running through it. Because of the pride to want to protect that you are capable, you allow for all of these things to take place. Why do we have to sign this? Go and get a child outside. Why do we have to do? Why do we see ourselves today, families, because society so you can't give birth, you now go buy kids. So baby factories are booming because they wanted to maintain that pride in the society. We should be able to tell ourselves some truths. And simply, you can't give birth to a child. You can't give birth to a child. Society should embrace you for the way you are. What you can do.
What's wrong with adoption?
I was going to say that.
Exactly.
So why can't you adopt legally as is enshrined? Why do we have to buy the kids? Why do we pretend? Why would a lady pretend that she's pregnant, right? Yeah. And 2 weeks after she comes and says, "These are my babies." Why do we have to do that?
Yeah, because of this kind of society that
I think it's because of the assumed stigma attached to these things.
That's why the society needs to unlearn some things.
I key into that, assumed, because a lot of times nobody is really bothered.
90%.
Nobody is really bothered.
Maybe in the immediate family.
Yes.
Within the immediate family, perhaps. But the truth is, the larger society is everybody has their own issues. They're not worried about your inability to produce kids.
Well, sometimes your neighbors do. Like,
sometimes they prefer the speck of dust in your eye than the log of wood in there.
My neighbor comes to tell me, "Oh, you're infertile, and you'll keep me awake at night."
No, you see,
with your 20 children, when I'm done insulting you, you'll probably hang yourself and all of them, please.
Because you have the capacity.
Comes to say, you have to develop tough skin to survive.
Beautiful.
If every small breeze that comes blows you, won't make it.
True. Which means that your upbringing has been able to build you to that level of self-confidence, which is invariably saying that as parents, we need to begin to teach our kids to let them understand that what you don't have does not necessarily define who you are.
Exactly.
Simple.
Material or immaterial.
I've been saying that because I've seen people who respect others because of the money you have. And I gave an example just last week. I said, money can't really give you respect if you don't earn it. Donald Trump, one of the richest men in the world, before he even became president. I'm talking about Donald Trump as a businessman. As a president, was he respected?
No.
On CNN, he was blasted like almost every day. He wasn't respected, not by his country. Now, Nelson Mandela was in jail for how many years? 27? How much did he have there?
Nothing.
But he was respected by the world.
Even till now.
Even in death. So material things cannot.
Such values can be taught our kids.
Exactly. It's what I tell people.
Should be taught our kids.
It's what I say. You can't attach respect to someone because of the money they have. It's just paper. And it's going to become something else in a few years.
Not because she can't give birth makes her to be less woman.
She's still a woman.
Not because the man is infertile makes him to be less
man.
You know what I tell
How about those who give birth and can't even look after the children?
Exactly. What I tell people is the word marriage is, I think if we go by the scripture, it came from when God said, let us make a helpmate for Adam.
Seeing the loneliness of the man.
Yes.
That is not even requested for the woman for.
Yes. He said, let us make a helpmate. He did not say, let us make a baby machine for the man.
Exactly.
So the interpretation for me is children or no children. The basis for marriage should be companionship. Children are called offspring. Offspring are like, okay, things that came out of this.
Yes.
But the main thing is this. So if we begin to appreciate it, I'm not saying children are not important. I love them to my bone marrow. But if I can't make it, I didn't have it the first 5 years. And at a point, I was worried. On the second thought, I told myself, to hell, I don't need it that much. I'm going to focus. And when the first baby came, I kept taking chloroquine injection and all that because I thought it was malaria. I had killed off my mind, you know. So marriage should be for companionship. Children should
companionship, complementary position, compatibility,
exactly.
and enjoyment of living.
The children you're even bothered about, the highest you can have them is within 20 years. And as a matter of fact, if we're sincere, with today's world, it's the first 14 years. Because when they start boarding school, they are gone.
That's true.
They are gone. And the only thing you still have is that same marriage.
That's true.
So you must make efforts to keep that marriage.
That is why we should be teaching this to ourselves, to the upcoming kids, to know that when you get into the position of being in a relationship, this is the essence of why you're in a relationship. The fruit that comes out of the relationship are secondary, not connected to your enjoyment of living, your compatibility, the complementariness, and, you know, the pleasures you want to have. If we begin to teach this to ourselves, to the kids, gradually we'll begin to reduce the pressure that comes to the society. Because you can't give birth does not make you less a human being. DNA test today is open up. She says something about, you know, the DNA test. She doesn't really approve of it. Yeah, she has a good point. But I've also seen a situation where the brother fathered the children of the brother. The woman knew, kept quiet, until they did test. Then the father was so convinced that these are my kids. Not for them to do DNA testing, it was now proven that not his. But the brother came up and it was the brother's son. The brother said, that he was not around always, so the wife was around. And he had to help. And this man was already home.
Sorry, we call that help. Is that help?
Anyway, let's take more messages. Wow. So, good morning, the guests in the studio. Great topic. I think sincerely, frank and open conversation with your spouse is key. Societal pressure, shame, and discrimination is not helping. Couples should make use of advancement in medicine. Thanks from Ashile. Thank you very much. And that's the key thing. Communication in every relationship is paramount. And let's take one more. He said, I'm enjoying your program. This question is for women. I said this because, okay, we already took that already, from someone already. Okay, good morning to you, beautiful women and gentlemen. Take my topic. Or my take on today's topic is that DNA paternity test is not lack of trust, but just to know exactly what you have around you. Kenneth from Makurdi. That's a reference to what Devon already said. He said, good morning to you. Please, my question is this. A man that does not have time for you, nor the child, what will one do? Because it's eating me up. Wow. As a lamentation from the lady.
Help outside. If he's not willing to communicate, you meet family. The family is not willing to do anything, you don't get results, then you get out of the relationship.
Exactly. No.
Okay.
Having tried all. See,
okay, good.
Having tried all.
He said,
having tried all.
Take these
steps.
Yes.
First with him or with her. If there's no room, you get the third party to come in, which is a family member or someone that the person respects.
I think a professional would be
before
better.
you get a professional, it's always good before you get a professional. Every individual should have someone they look up to, they respect. If you get into a relationship and the man or the woman does not have one of such person, then that's a problem. That's a pointer. Yeah? There's going to be a problem.
There's going to be
whoever
huge problems.
is not under any type of mentorship, it becomes a major problem.
Yes, that's true.
So effective communication comes in. She talked about, the DNA test, why she, that circumstance for DNA test. If we communicate effectively, if we're honest, I always tell people, be sure that what you're saying aligns with your thoughts, so that it's obvious that you're honest with your communication. You know what excites you in bed. You know what takes you to your climax.
That's another thing.
Why do we have to wait for your partner to become Christopher Columbus, to discover new lands, or Mungo Park, to discover Nigeria is already existing? Nigeria was already existing, but credit was given to Mungo Park.
Well, but you know the why?
The why?
The why is that over time women have been culturally taught to be
quiet,
conservative,
to be conservative with what they say. You know, you don't nag.
Yeah, wait, otherwise they sound like a slut.
You are nagging. Hey, you must give him peace. He should come home to a peaceful environment.
Exactly.
So that you are swelling up. You are swelling up. You think you are going to explode with some frustration, but you are being nice and quiet, so that the house will be peaceful.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, smoke is coming out of your head. I'm not even talking just about sexual stuff. It could be any other thing.
It could be communication.
Yeah, but you have to be this good wife that's peaceful. And accommodating and understanding, and the house is peaceful.
No,
you don't
that's
want to
not
be
true.
a nag.
In fact, the pastor once said, if you think that you're burning and it's not there, drink water and take the Bible and pray. And I said, well, that was false.
It doesn't work.
That's false. You get? Lack of sex education makes it difficult for us to identify our sexuality effectively.
True.
All right, our time is almost up, but we just have to take this from Elder Azuma. He says, good morning, please. People should always do what is morally right, no matter the situation, knowing that God is watching. We should be careful with the kind of advice and information we let out on issues that are sensitive. Very important. We should do what is morally right. On a parting note, just 1 second for each of us.
I think that people should marry for the right reasons.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
The right reasons need to be right. People should marry for the right reasons. If you're a man and you want to do a DNA test, please don't let your wife know you want to do a DNA test. It might lead to your death if she already has babies from outside. Be careful.
Well, for me, I think people should be fair to one another. If you do not like something, don't do it to the next person.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that.
All right, having said all that, I'll just wrap it up by saying, whatever you think that is not right, just as you said, please don't do it. If you know that you don't want a cup of tea for yourself, don't offer it to another person. And let's see you again next week. We have many more, contributions, and as usual, we will be replying you off camera. For now, I will just join you to continue to watch the NTA and get yourself entertained, informed, and educated. My name again is Elizabeth. Bye.